Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, everybody, myself included, frankly, we were expecting a slugfest on Friday when incoming mayor of New York City, Islamo-communist Zoran Mamdani, met with President Donald Trump. Yet, instead of what I thought was going to be fireworks, arguments, debate, back and forth, instead, there's no other way to say it. It turned into an absolute bromance. It was shocking. It was disconcerting. It was one of the few events in American history, at least recent history, where both the right and the left had the same reaction. Shock, disbelief, and astonishment. Now, President Trump had already signaled ahead of the meeting that he was going to be very civil to Mamdani, that he wanted to be polite to Mamdani and focus on areas of what he said there was agreement. But even with that warning that he had given, or forewarning, I guess, people were still shocked at how warm, how friendly, how affectionate the two of them were, not just at the White House impromptu press conference in the Oval Office, but the way Trump rolled out the red carpet for Mamdani. He brought him in. He apparently gave him a very gracious tour of the White House. They then spoke for 45 minutes in private, where they said they didn't talk about any areas of disagreement whatsoever. Honestly, I'm thinking, well, what is there to talk about? Because according to the last couple months, if you look at the statements both men have made, they disagree on everything, literally everything. So they said no. They want to make New York City more affordable. They want to drive down the cost of food, the cost of rent, the cost of utilities. They want to build more housing. And so, saying that was their area of agreement, they then went and held an Oval Office Q&A with reporters. And man, oh man, they were backslapping each other, especially, frankly, Trump, more than Mamdani. Trump was backslapping him, grabbing him by the arm, congratulating him, praising him. Here is exactly what Trump said. According to President Trump, Zoran Mamdani, who, by the way, dozens of times, President Trump on Truth Social called him a jihadist and especially a communist, and went on to say that he was going to destroy New York City with his policies. By the way, he was right on all three counts. Suddenly did a complete 180. He said that Mamdani is going to shock conservatives, that he is going to end up being, quote unquote, a great mayor, maybe even the greatest mayor in the history of New York City, that Mamdani wants safe streets, that Mamdani has a program and a plan of action that will make New York City much more affordable, and that, in fact, Trump openly admitted, when asked, well, would you live in New York City under a Mamdani leadership, under a Mamdani mayoralty? Trump said, in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. And so he repeatedly praised Mamdani again and again, up to and including, for me, the shocking moment when Mamdani was asked point blank, you have called Trump repeatedly a fascist, a dictator, and a despot. In fact, you said he's going to have to go through you to get to the people of New York. Do you want to retract anything that you said? And Mamdani was doing a hula, 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 basically mumbling and stumbling, and then Trump warmly grabs his arm, smiles, looks up at him, and says, oh, come on, just say it. Just say it. Say yes. Say yes. You think I'm a fascist and a dictator. I've been called worse. And so Mamdani, nodding his head, smiling with that snake oil salesman smile of his, just, yeah, he's still a fascist. He's still a despot. But hey, we agree on affordable housing. Now, if you notice, and this is not unique on my part, many people have pointed this out, even though Trump repeatedly praised the Islamo-fascist, Qami Mamdani, Mamdani never returned the favor. He was warm, he was backslapping, but he never actually praised Donald Trump. It was all a one-way street. Trump was praising Mamdani. And so the question now is, why? Why? Why would President Trump legitimize an Islamo-communist like Mamdani, who, if he implements even 1/10 of what he says he's going to implement, will literally destroy the most important city in the United States of America? And according to people who are MAGA supporters, by the way, most of MAGA was upset. Most of MAGA, I think even to this day, it's been about, 48, 72 hours, they're still shocked and dumbfounded. Many are still scratching their heads. But anyway, what they're trying to do now is they're trying to rationalize what happened. And so they're trying to claim Trump is playing 3D chess, 4D chess. I'm not kidding. Some news sites are even saying 12D chess. Okay, which doesn't exist, but let that go. In other words, this is such political genius that we're talking about almost on a godlike level. And the question I have for all of them is, in other words, Trump is co-opting Mamdani. Trump is charming Mamdani. Trump is embracing Mamdani so he can mitigate his jihadism. He can mitigate his communism. He'll have more influence over Mamdani. And he can then dilute a lot of what he wants to do and essentially save New York from destruction. That's the, 4D, 6D, 8D, 10D, 12D chess argument. My answer is very simple. What did Trump actually accomplish? What did he accomplish with this meeting? Where's the checkmate? If you're playing chess, the goal is checkmate. So what did he accomplish with this 4D, 6D, 12D meeting? He legitimized an Islamo-communist. Frankly, I never would have allowed him to come into the Oval Office. He gave that alone, I thought, was too much. But then to say the stuff that he said, here's President Trump. Roll cut 10, Mike.
For you, you referred to Mr. Mamdani as a communist. Can you describe why you feel that way? And also, will you do anything to stop him from arresting Prime Minister Netanyahu if he visits New York?
Well, we didn't discuss your second part of the question. And on your first part, he's got views that are a little out there, but who knows? We're going to see what works, or he's going to change also. We all change. I changed a lot. From when I first came to office. It's now quite a while ago. It's quite a while. My first term was great. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country. We're doing even better now. We're doing much better now than we did even the first term. And I can tell you some of my views have changed. And we had discussions on some things. I'm not going to discuss what they were, but that I feel very confident that he can do a very good job. I think he is going to surprise some conservative people, actually. And some very liberal people, he won't surprise them because they already like him.
So he's going to surprise conservatives. In other words, he's going to be a lot more effective than we were giving him credit for. Okay, so, and I'll play you some more of the cuts, the shocking cuts. He has legitimized Mamdani. He never should have done that. Furthermore, he was asked point blank, do you believe you're now meeting with a jihadist? Trump answered no, explicitly. In fact, saying who I met today was a very rational man, basically the opposite of a jihadist. So I believe, frankly, these words are going to haunt Trump. I think he made a big mistake. I think he never should have met with Mamdani. And I think, slobbering all over him like this is going to come back and haunt him. And I'll tell you why. Because now Mamdani can say that even Trump has given him his seal of approval. And so as he begins his systematic dismantling and destruction of New York, this will be our domestic Munich, whereby Trump met with the Islamo-communist and was silent and appeased him. I want to ask all of you, what did you make of Trump's historic meeting with Mayor-elect of New York City, Zohran the Commie Mamdani? It was a bromance, especially on Trump's side. Praise after praise after praise. Listen now to President Trump openly saying this man is talented, according to Trump, and he would be very comfortable in living in a New York run by Mamdani. Roll cut 11, a mic.
Would you feel comfortable living in New York City under a Mamdani administration?
Yeah, I would. I really would. Especially after the meeting. Absolutely.
What makes you comfortable?
We agree on a lot more than I would have thought. I think I want him to do a great job, and we'll help him do a great job. You know, he may have different views, but in many ways, we were discussing when Bernie Sanders was out of the race, I picked up a lot of his votes, and people had no idea because he was strong on not getting ripped off in trade and lots of the things that I've practiced and been very successful on, tariffs, a lot of things. Bernie Sanders and I agreed on much more than people thought, and when he was put out of the race, I think quite unfairly, if you want to know the truth, many of the Bernie Sanders voters voted for me. And I felt very comfortable, frankly, in seeing that and saying that. And, just turned out to be a statistical truth. But, no, I feel very comfortable. I would feel very, very comfortable being in New York, and I think much more so after the meeting.
I'm telling you, look, honestly, I'm not comfortable living in New York. But then again, and that's the thing, he's a billionaire. I mean, Trump is literally the guy that Mamdani wants to chase out of New York. This is stunning. I'll be honest with you, it's stunning. Now, I think I understand what Trump is trying to do, to be fair to him, obviously. It's a charm offensive, and he thinks he can out-charm Mamdani. And that he praises him, kind of takes him under his wing, embraces him, and this way he can really influence him and dilute what he thinks is a lot of the radicalism of some of his policies. But you dance with the devil, and I'm telling you, you don't seduce the devil. The devil ends up seducing you. And, I'm going to get into this a little bit later, but there's actually a term in Islam, taqiyya, where you are permitted by Islam, by Islamic law, to lie to the infidel. You can't lie to fellow Muslims. That's considered a sin. But you can lie to non-Muslims, especially if you consider that person your enemy and to gain an advantage. And so I don't know what Mamdani told him behind closed doors. But I wouldn't trust him as far as I can throw him. Every second word out of his mouth is a lie. And what is there? I mean, by the way, after the meeting, and I want to play just a few cuts because I want you to hear it. Mamdani didn't change at least publicly, he didn't change any of his positions. So rent control, check. Government-run grocery stores, check. Sharia law in the mayor's office, in the mayor's mansion, check. Arresting Benjamin Netanyahu, check. Supporting radical Palestinian activists, check. Ties to the Muslim Brotherhood. Check. $30 an hour minimum wage. Check. Free buses. Check. Defunding the police. Check. Abolishing prisons. Check. By the way, having social workers respond to 911 domestic violence calls. Check. I don't want to live in that kind of a city. Like, what are you, crazy? Soak the wealthy, soak the billionaires, raise taxes on all business owners across the board, raise taxes on white neighborhoods. No, I'm good. I'm good. No, I don't need that. So, and this is now the problem I think Trump faces. Yeah, it may have been a charm offensive, and maybe he thinks he's, co-opted Mamdani. I don't think he has, at least by the way Mamdani is talking afterwards. But now you got a problem, because now the question is going to be asked. We've got 200 True Social posts going back months where all you do rightly is criticize Mamdani, excoriate Mamdani, expose, unmask Mamdani. And suddenly now, 145-minute meeting? And I'm using, this is Trump's words. He's going to be one of the greatest mayors New York has ever had, maybe the greatest ever. I swear to God, I thought I was going to barf. When I saw that, I'm like, I'm going to throw up. Like, ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. Now, listen to this. This was Trump asked point blank. Now remember, this is a supporter of Hamas. This is a supporter of the Muslim Brotherhood. This is a man who said, quote, globalize the intifada. This is a man who wants Israel wiped off the face of the map. This is a man who is helping the Muslim Brotherhood literally cut checks to radical pro-Palestinian activists engaging in naked anti-Semitism on college campuses. This is a man who says he wants to drive the Jews out of New York City. And Trump says, the media says, but, you've called him a jihadist. Listen now to Trump's response. Roll cut 12. Mike.
Republican Elise Stefanik has campaigned multiple times by calling Zohran Mamdani a jihadist. Do you think you're standing next to a jihadist right now in the Oval Office?
No, I don't, but she's out there campaigning, and, you say things sometimes in a campaign.
Isn't that sort of...
She's a very capable person, but you really have to ask her about that, but I don't... I met with a man who's a very rational person. I met with a man who really wants to see New York be great again. And I can say again, because New York was great.
Oh my God. He wants to make New York great again? Are you kidding me? He is the second coming of Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London. That's driven London into the ground. In fact, and I got to tell you, one of the optics that's going to stay with me from that meeting forever. Okay, what did you make of the now really infamous meeting between Trump and Zohran Mamdani? I want to play one more cut, and then I want to go to the phone lines. 617-266-6868. Okay, now, of everything that was said, this is the one that I think is going to live on for a very long time for both men. And that is when a New York Post reporter asks Mamdani point blank, and he's standing now above President Trump. Again, as I said, that to me I found very disconcerting. Trump is sitting down. Mamdani is standing, but he's standing behind him. And it's almost as if he's looking at the desk, and the Oval Office desk, and Mamdani clearly is an Islamist. I mean, he said it repeatedly. He's viewed as an Islamist. He sees himself as an Islamist. He's got massive support from Islamist organizations led by the Muslim Brotherhood, among others. And there he is, not just in the Oval Office, but not even 6 inches, standing and towering over the President of the United States because Trump is sitting down. And you can almost see it in his eyes. Islam is now this close to capturing this desk, this office, the White House itself. And only 25 years ago, not even 24 years ago, there was the 9/11 attacks. So we've gone from ground zero to now me being welcomed. They rolled out the red carpet for an Islamo-communist who, by the way, to this day continues to minimize what happened on 9/11. And in fact, just so that you know, is now supporting a candidate in New York City that basically said America had what was coming to it on 9/11. A radical pro-Palestinian Islamist who now is basically saying the United States got what it deserved. Okay, so this is the man now that is standing above Trump. And so the New York Post reporter, Nelson, his last name is Nelson, Ben Nelson, who's been breaking stories about Mamdani's connections to these Islamo-fascist groups and Islamo-communist groups, asks Mamdani, well, you've routinely called him Hitler. You've routinely called Trump a Nazi. You said just a few days ago, just 2 days before you came to the Oval Office, that Trump is a fascist, a dictator, and a despot. And that if he wants to get to the people of New York City, he's going to have to go through you. What do you say now? Are you going to retract those words? And Trump comes to Mamdani's rescue. Roll cut 13, Mike.
I want to clarify your answer to Stephen Nelson. He asked about your comment calling the president a fascist. And your answer was, both President Trump and I have been clear about our positions and our views. Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay. You can just say yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay. It's easier. It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind.
So, and then, he's grabbing him by the arm, Trump is, and says, just say it. Come on, just say it. I've been called worse. Just say it. And so you see Mamdani with that snake oil smile of his, that little greasy smile of his. And he's just nodding his head up and down like, yeah, he's still a fascist. Yeah. By the way, if there was any doubt, I'll play the cut later in the show because I want to go to the phones. But he goes on NBC's Meet the Mess, okay? Meet the Press. And, Kirsten Welker asks him point blank, after your meeting, did you meet with Hitler? Is it still did you meet with a fascist? Oh, yeah. Trump's an absolute fascist. Oh, yeah. So if the point of this was to be a charm offensive, I don't think he charmed Mamdani. At least Mamdani's not talking like he was charmed. They're still going to hate Trump just as much. That's not going to change. He came out yesterday and said that New York under him will still be a sanctuary city. In fact, a radical sanctuary city. ICE will not be welcome in New York City. And that he will oppose and fight Trump tooth and nail. So my question is, if we're playing 3D chess, what did Trump get? I'm being serious, really. I'd like to know. I really would. What did Trump get out of that meeting? I know what Mamdani got. Mamdani got everything. Mamdani got the president's seal of approval. Mamdani basically got Trump to reverse everything he had said prior to that meeting. This was a form of appeasement, whether Trump knows it or not. And and by the way, this has been tried with Islamists now for I don't know how many decades. Be nice to them, coddle them, appease them, embrace them. You can mold them, you can change them, you can soften them. And all you end up doing is you let the snake into your house. And the snake will bite and bite and bite and bite. And Mamdani, I'm sorry, I disagree with Trump. He's not going to surprise conservatives. He's certainly not going to surprise me. He is going to run that city into the ground. And then what's Trump going to say? I told you so? Well, no. You met him in the Oval Office. You told us he was going to be a great mayor. Hell, you told us he was going to be the greatest mayor of all time. So what you've now done is, in some ways, you've tethered yourself to this man. Because remember, Mamdani never praised Trump once in that meeting. He never once approved of anything Trump did. All of the praise, all of the, the gushing, lines and, oh, he's a great campaigner, he's a great politician, he's got great ideas, he's a great visionary, he's going to be a great mayor. That was all coming from Trump. So, look, and I think this is something so foreign to the American mind. We don't think like this. It's not Western. It's Eastern. It's something that's medieval. It's just not how we think. But the notion of taqiyya, which is deeply ingrained in the Muslim mind and in Muslim culture. You go to someone who is an infidel, who's not a Muslim, and who's your mortal enemy, and you can say anything to them. It's all okay. In fact, it's even encouraged. So lie, 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 lie. And I bet you for 45 minutes, this guy told Trump everything he wanted to hear. But don't listen to what he says. Look at what Mamdani does. And what he's doing is going to be a disaster for New York. Honest to God, I feel like Winston Churchill today. I'm being serious. And I'm not saying I'm a great man like Churchill. I'm not saying I'm his stature. I'm saying, I'm using the analogy. I feel like this was a domestic version of Munich. You met the Islamo-communist and you gave him a pass. You gave him the legitimacy that he craved and required. That's what he wanted from that meeting, and he got it. Trump even said at the meeting, yeah, I'm not going to pull federal funding. Nah, let's forget about it. Are you going to send in the National Guard? Probably not. He wants safe streets. Nah. So he gave away the store, a la Munich. What did he get in return? And remember, Hitler charmed the pants off of Chamberlain. And my fear is, rather than charming Mamdani, I think it's Mamdani that may have charmed Trump. Just my honest opinion. Agree, disagree. I certainly welcome all views. You know that. In fact, I really would like to be wrong about this, but I'm just giving you my honest feedback and opinion. You can text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470. This is what some of you are saying. This is from 617. Jeff, to calm your worries about the Trump-Mamdani meeting, recall the counsel of Don Vito Corleone in The Godfather, the famous movie, to his son. Michael, always remember this. Keep your friends close, but keep your enemies closer. Okay, the audience, as far as I can tell, and this is just anecdotal, because we have a poll question up, but it has to do with Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I'm going to get to her later in the show, I promise. But, so there's not a formal poll question, but I'm just going by the text messages, the emails, the messages that we've been getting on Messenger. I would say Kuhner Country is 50-50, split right down the middle. There are those, like one of the texters I read on the air, that this is keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. Here's another one, 781. Jeff, you're misreading what happened in the Oval Office. Trump played Mamdani like a fiddle. Now Mamdani can't say when things go sour in New York City under his leadership, that Trump is to blame in any way, shape, or form, because Trump offered him all the help in the world. That's interesting. That's interesting. So half of you feel like, no, Trump was playing him, and now Mamdani can't use Trump as a foil. Because Trump's like, look, whatever you need, I'll give you. Well, you're a great guy. You're a great guy. I like you. You know, hey, no, let's get affordability. Let's get all those prices down. Whatever you need, the mayor of New York, I'm going to give to you. So now it's kind of hard for Mamdani to say, well, things are bad in New York because of Trump, and make Trump public enemy number one and use him as a scapegoat. So I get it. That's 50% of the audience. The other 50% is this. And frankly, this is what I'm worried about. And the reason why is, A, these feelings are deeply felt. Number one, it's truly from the heart. And I'm starting to get worried that many of these are diehard Trump supporters. They may not vote in the midterms because they're becoming disillusioned. So I get the 50% that think Trump, played Mamdani. But this is the other 50%. And I want to read to you just one. I can read many, and I want to take calls. But this is from Marianne in Florida. Jeff, I am tired of hearing, quote unquote, trust the process. Read The Art of the Deal. He's playing 3D chess. He's got Mamdani right where he wants him. I'm sorry. I am so disappointed in President Trump this term about so many things. Is he doing some good things? Yes, of course he is. But he's not the same president he was during his first term. This meeting with that communist, Islamist, fascist POS doesn't show me America first. I'm sorry. I am so disappointed. And remember this, we really don't know what went on in that meeting because a lot of it was behind closed doors. And then she goes on to say, quote, people need to open their eyes and see and understand that Donald Trump is not perfect. He never was, he never will be. There is only one perfect man, and he died for us on the cross. I am tired of people making Trump out to be God. I like Trump, don't get me wrong. But what I'm seeing during this second term of his is very disappointing. So, are you disappointed in Trump's performance and in the meeting with Mamdani? Or do you think he played him like a fiddle? 617-266-6868. I want to hear from you, Kuhner Country. Lines are loaded. Who do you want me to go to first, Mike? Robert in Chicago. Robert in Chicago, thanks for holding and welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. I love you in a non-sexual way.
Thank you, Robert. I thought you were going to be mad at me because I was criticizing Trump's meeting, but go ahead, Robert.
I'm the one who used to call you from Anchorage. I have now relocated to warm, sunny Chicago for the winter, and I wanted to address Mamdani and my knowledge of him. A lot of the things that you had been saying about him being communist and leftist and stuff like that, I can believe that, and I have to confess, I actually know very, very little about him. There was a podcast that he put out that has been taken off of YouTube, and I was very disturbed by that because in his podcast, he went and was saying, okay, I'm now newly elected. and I want to do what's best for the people of New York. I am a what did he say? It was I am a democratic socialist. I am a Muslim. I am very devout to being a Muslim, but my main thing is I'm there for the people of New York. I have spoken with people of New York in different boroughs, and I am wanting to do what the people of New York want. Then he went on saying, the United States spends billions or trillions of dollars on warmongering throughout the world in different places, and if we have so much money to spend on defense, why can't we use some of that money to help the people of the New York City? And then he used some of the gestures that that reporter that everyone hates, the one who got kicked off the networks and is now has his own way of giving information out. What ended up happening is he used those gestures like where he would say, the United States spends billions of dollars. Think about that. $1 billion spent on military, and there isn't enough money for people in a big city? Then he went on saying that people in one of his boroughs were from Venezuela, and they were saying they are afraid that the United States is going to invade Venezuela and go and murder thousands of innocent Venezuelans.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about, Robert. No, look, this is the thing. He's acting like he's the co-president. He's going on about Israel. He's going about Gaza. He's going on about Ukraine. He's going about whether we should invade or not invade Venezuela. That's not his purview. He's the mayor of New York City. He's the mayor of the 5 boroughs of New York City. That's it. That's all. Hell, he's not even the governor of New York. Like, I don't know who this punk thinks he is. So that's already the first problem. The second problem is they've been spending money hand over fist in New York. See, this is the problem now. I think Trump is going to eat those words, with all due respect. Because the problem in New York is that they've been following leftist policies. Like, everybody forgets Bill de Blasio. Bill de Blasio was an open admirer of the communist Sandinistas. Bill de Blasio was a borderline communist. Now, he was a bit smarter, a bit shrewder than Mamdani, and didn't say, hey, I'm a commie, the way Mamdani has. But, you know, he's the one that pushed many of the policies that have made New York City unlivable, unaffordable, not safe, dangerous, and turning it into basically a sanctuary city. This is all under Big Bird, Bill de Blasio, and, of course, Kathy Hochul and Andrew Cuomo. So, you know, you get more of the same, you're going to get the same but worse. That's what's going to happen with Mamdani. They've been doing rent control in New York City forever. He's just going to do more of it. They've been soft on crime for 2 decades. He's just going to do more of it. They've been embracing Black Lives Matter now for, 5, 6 years. He's going to do more of it. So what I'm saying is, things are not going to get better. Things are going to get infinitely worse. Now, to me, and this is just me now, maybe that's why I'm not president. Maybe that's why I'm not a multi-billionaire. I'm being serious. Maybe I just don't have that kind of a cunning enough mind. But to me, when you see an Islamo-communist like Mamdani, you give him the back of your hand. You call him out the way Churchill called Hitler out. I'm sorry, that's the only way to deal with people. The way Reagan called the Soviet communists out. You say, listen, this is not going to work. This guy is going to be a disaster. And when the disaster happens, remember, I warned you and I told you so. And there's nothing else to say. And I'm not going to be complicit in this man's regime in any way, shape, or form. And in fact, I would have told him right there on the spot. Because one of the questions was, did you guys discuss when, what's going to happen when Mamdani arrests Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel? Now, I want to be clear. It doesn't matter what you think about Netanyahu or his policies, whether you're for him or against him. The mayor of New York has no constitutional jurisdiction to arrest any foreign leader. I'm not just talking the prime minister of Israel. Any foreign leader. He doesn't have that power. Now, I'm telling you, if he's sitting right beside me 2 feet away from me, by the way, I'd never let him stand. And I certainly wouldn't let him stand over my shoulder, like he's looking over me and down on me. That I would never allow. I'm telling you right now, okay? But that's me. He'd be sitting down, like Trump does with other leaders. They sit, 2, 3 feet, 4 feet away from him, okay? He'd be sitting down, and I'd say, listen, Zoran, just so that you know, you arrest Netanyahu or anybody else as a foreign leader, I'm going to arrest you right on the spot. Do you understand that? That's it. I want you to know. I'm not playing games. Now, you can flap your mouth for your radical left-wing mob that puts you into power, but we're not on the campaign trail anymore. This is the United States of America. You don't play around with foreign countries, foreign leaders, foreign alliances. Robert, I'll be honest with you. I would have taken a completely different tack than what Trump did. And now we're going to see what it is. I mean, the fallout already, to be honest, is very good for Mamdani, not so good for Trump. And I understand he has a lot of defenders on this issue. But what I'm worried about is he's got a lot of people now who are starting to feel, people who love him, people who voted for him 3 times, people who are die-hard Trumpers. And they're starting to get demoralized and disillusioned. And if I'm Trump, I'd start paying attention because it's not just the Mamdani thing. They're not happy with multiple things. 617-266-6868. Just my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. Heather in Wareham. Thanks for holding, Heather, and welcome.
For taking my call. How are you?
Hi, Heather. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. When I watched that on Friday, I think it was Friday, when he had that meeting, I was shocked at what I was actually watching. And I was like, I can't believe Trump is meeting with him. And the way the meeting was and how Joe, how they got along and everything. And, after I watched it, I was pondering it. And the only thing I could come up with is that this has to be a chess play for Trump because, I don't want to believe that, this is a mistake. I mean, I think it kind of was, but I also want to believe that maybe this is how Trump, I think part of Trump's success, I guess, is what I'm saying is his ability to meet, he meets with other, people from different countries and gets along with the guy, whatever the hell his name is in China.
Xi Jinping?
Yeah, thank you. I had a brain thought. Things like that. I can't stand that guy. I would never meet, that's me. I would never meet with somebody that I can't stand. But I think that's one of Trump's, strengths, that he can kind of look past differences and get to certain issues. And I also think, one of your texters said earlier, you read one of the texts that said that now, and I think that texter made a really good point, that what's his name, Mandami can't blame Trump for when he fails, and
Well, yeah, and the other thing that many are saying on the text line, which I think is also a very good point and a valid and interesting point, is by elevating Mamdani so high, and that was another thing that shocked people, right? He's going to be a great mayor, maybe the greatest mayor that New York City's ever had, is by elevating him so high. They say the higher you go, the farther you fall. In other words, he's now setting expectations for Mamdani to be so high, almost unrealistic, really. Think about it. New York has had some great mayors. New York is a great city, historically, and they've had some outstanding mayors. So, by saying he's going to be maybe the greatest ever. So he's setting expectations so high. It's like saying, this guy's not just a great Olympian. He's going to win 5 gold medals. Like, what? Yeah. I mean, maybe the most medals anyone's ever won at the Olympics. So even if the guy ends up winning 1 or 2 gold medals, you're like, well, he didn't win 5. See what I mean? So he's setting expectations so high that when Mamdani crashes and burns, it's going to be even that much worse. See, that's what many people are saying. Look, I understand that. I get it. I do. And I also understand what you're saying. This is what some people, actually my family, are telling me. Well, look, he's very cordial to Putin. He's cordial to Xi Jinping. He's cordial to Kim Jong-un. He's cordial to, in other words, look, this guy has met with mass murderers, true dictators and mass murderers. And he'll try to find areas of agreement and commonality, common ground, and try to get something positive out of it. I understand. But we're not talking about shaking hands, talking about affordability, lowering rents, building more houses, lowering grocery stores. We're talking, he's not a jihadist. He's got some very good ideas. I would live in New York. In other words, you're deliberately papering over some very fundamental issues. I don't want to live under the Muslim Brotherhood. I don't. I don't want to live under an anti-Semite. I don't. I don't want to live under an Islamo-communist. I don't. Like, to be honest, the question that I would have asked Trump if I'm a reporter, well, what good ideas does he have? Okay, but could you just name me a couple? I mean, what's good? There's nothing good. And, again, I'm going to take a lot of heat for this. But to me, look, having battled communism my entire life, the one thing you don't do is give communists the rope to hang you with, because they want to hang you. And so when you allow him into the Oval Office and you give him the imprimatur of the presidency of the United States, where now even Trump is saying, this guy could be it. This guy could be one of the greatest ever. And he's got a lot of good ideas. You've given this man a legitimacy that he doesn't deserve and he hasn't earned. And I'm telling you, that is very dangerous. That is extremely dangerous. I don't want Mamdani to succeed. And I'll tell you why. Because I've seen communism and socialism in action again and again. And it always leads to disaster and ruin. Everywhere. So no, I don't want him to succeed. Because if he succeeds, New York City will die. Now, up until that meeting on Friday, and this is just my honest opinion, Trump was on the right side of history. Trump said, don't vote for him. Trump opposed him. Trump criticized him. In fact, everything Trump said was 1,000% correct. All he would have to say is, I told you so. I told you so. I told you so. But now he's negated everything that he said. because of the way he gushed all over Mamdani and gave him his, as I said, his stamp of approval. Now the question, this is why people are shocked. So, Mr. President, were you lying for those several months before when you were saying what an evil monster Mamdani was? Or were you lying at the White House meeting? It can't be both. So now Trump, for the first time, comes across as disingenuous and dishonest. And both of them together, this is the part I found most disgusting. Come on, say it. Say I'm a fascist. Say it. Just say it. And so Mamdani says it. And everybody's laughing. What is this, some kind of a game? Calling somebody a Nazi, a fascist, a dictator, a despot? What is this, like it's just a game? In other words, what Trump is basically exposing is they don't even believe their own BS. But the problem is Thomas Crooks did. And that shooter in Florida at the golf course did. And millions of people, crazy leftists and liberals, they believe it. So calling Trump a fascist nearly got the president killed. Not once, but twice. Okay, let me ask all of you. What did you make of Trump's meeting with Zoran the commie Mamdani? I'm just curious. Did you think that Trump ran circles around him, played him, basically a form of 3D chess, as many of you are saying, patted him on the back, praised him, which shocked the entire media and frankly the entire left? And now Mamdani, the expectations have been set so high by Trump, Mamdani is going to look like a failure no matter what he does. So do you think that Mamdani was effectively co-opted by President Trump, which was maybe the purpose of everything? I'm just curious. Or do you think that Trump made a mistake? That he essentially thought he was co-opting Mamdani, but ended up legitimizing Mamdani and giving him a huge PR victory over Trump? Were you disappointed that it turned into basically a bromance? 617-266-6868. Audience split right down the middle. Literally right down the middle. Okay, this is from 508. Jeff, people need to calm down. I think people are just more shocked, 508, than, than losing their hair or, pulling their hair out. But anyway, Jeff, people need to calm down. Mamdani is a fraud. Trump played him like a fraud. And now you watch. When Mamdani doesn't deliver, he will not be able to blame Trump. Mamdani was played. This is the art of the deal. Interesting. Okay, here's a message on Messenger, and it says pretty much the very opposite. Again, the audience is, literally, split 50-50. Jeff, again, Marianne in Florida. Jeff, this wasn't just Trump being cordial, and it certainly is nothing like he is with Xi Jinping or Vladimir Putin. This was complete ass-kissing, and I just can't take it anymore. When people were so in love with Obama, we Republicans hated it and called it a cult. I'm sorry, Jeff, this is no different. Trump was kissing Mamdani's ass. Something is not right. I always listen to my gut, and it's never been wrong. Do I want to be wrong this time? Yes, I do. But nothing good is going to come up for this, for Trump or for New York City. I'm done. Trump sanitized that Muslim POS. So, again, feelings are very strong on both sides. 617 266-6868. Mags in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Mags, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. And as always, God bless you and thank you for everything that you do. And I hope you and your family
My pleasure, Mags.
Everybody have a happy Thanksgiving.
You too. Happy Thanksgiving. All the best to you and your family. Mags, I got to ask you, I don't think anybody is more MAGA than you. I don't think anybody is more pro-Trump than you. I don't think anyone is more America first than you. What did you make of that love fest in the Oval Office? A, were you surprised? And B, did Trump play Mamdani? Or do you think he gave him or did Mamdani play Trump? I'm just curious. What was your take?
So, Jeff, I'm on the fence about it. I'll be honest with you. I didn't know why he would have had him to the Oval Office to begin with, because we know that he's a communist. We know what he is, okay? And I personally am afraid for the people in New York. I have a lot of friends that are Jewish that live in New York that don't know what to make of any of this. And once again, in my own opinion, I feel like cheating is a part of how he got in there. And until we straighten out all of our voting systems, Jeff, I'll consistently think cheating, okay? Especially when things happen just like the last election we had, okay? I can't help myself. I think a lot of people are upset with Trump because of all this Epstein, to be honest with you, it's like, why did you do that, Trump? Why didn't you just release it? Who gives a damn? Okay? And why haven't we seen any charges pressed against anyone for treason when all of these people that we know during COVID hurt our country? There's a lot of things. I love Trump. I still love Trump. I still believe in Trump. And I hope that he has a plan that I believe in, because I think that he was sent to us by God. I really do, because I think we were screwed if he didn't come. But I think he needs to do some things to a lot of these people that did our country wrong. And that people in this country need to see that. And that's why I think people like Marianne in Florida are really hacked off. Because I can understand it personally. Because I think he has made mistakes in this, during this term. And I think he can still have time to pick that up and reverse it. But he needs to make moves like he always does. And he hasn't seemed to do that this term. Jeff.
Interesting. Wow, interesting. To Trump's people who are listening, you better pay attention. Mags in New Hampshire, I would say, is, the archetypical MAGA supporter, MAGA patriot. So, to President Trump, you better pay attention. People are saying you're making more mistakes in this term than in the previous term, and they want you to turn things around. Focus more on the economy, focus more on domestic issues, and I'm not so sure, giving the proverbial 2 kisses on the cheek to Mamdani. I don't know if that's playing well with the base.
I want to clarify your answer to Stephen Nelson. He asked about your comment calling the president a fascist. And your answer was, both President Trump and I have been clear about our positions and our views. Mm-hmm. Are you affirming that you think President Trump is a fascist?
I've spoken about...
That's okay. You can just say yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's easier. It's easier than explaining it. I don't mind.
It was incredible. And so Mamdani, you can't see it, but Mamdani's nodding his head. Forgive me. He's nodding his head up and down. And he goes, yes. Like, yeah, he is a fascist and a despot. And Trump is just like, la da da. Hey, I've been called worse. Just say it. Let's move on. Ay, ay, ay. I mean, seriously, ay, ay, ay. 7:34 now on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. Even though Trump, really treated him well. Even his most rabid foes in the liberal media admitted that he gave Mamdani the red carpet treatment, a wonderful tour of the White House. Apparently, even his own chief of staff, Mamdani, said Trump was incredibly gracious in the 45-minute private meeting. Anything they wanted to eat, to drink, he listened to everything Mamdani had to say. He said he could not have been a more gracious, polite, receptive host. And then, of course, the press conference that has really, I think, stunned everybody. Like, it's like both sides, everybody. Liberals, conservatives, the right, the left, Republicans, Democrats, everybody's dumbfounded. But anyway, Mamdani was treated extremely well. I mean, extremely well. Now, let me just make 2 quick points. So, let me ask Mamdani and the left. If he's Hitler, if Trump is a fascist, a Nazi, a dictator, a despot, why would you go meet with him? I wouldn't meet with Hitler, would you? And then you still, this is how ridiculous, like we're in the theater of the absurd. And then, do you still think he's Hitler? Oh, yeah. But, he's focused on affordability. I mean, that's like, well, yeah. I mean, well, hey, Hitler wants to make sure that the working class have affordable homes. So, yeah, I'm with Adolf. I went and met with Adolf. What? He's then asked again. He goes on NBC's Meet the Mess with Kirsten Welker. And she says, you've been calling him, Hitler, Nazi, fascist, dictator. I got to ask you again. Did you meet with a fascist yesterday? Listen to Mamdani's response. Roll cut 14. Mike.
Press conference with President Trump, a reporter asked you whether you believe that President Trump is in fact a fascist, a word that you've used in the past. You were about to answer, then President Trump sort of jumped in and he said, quote, "That's okay, you can just say yes. It's easier than explaining it." So, Mr. Mayor-elect, just to be very clear, do you think that President Trump is a fascist?
And after President Trump said that, I said yes. And
so you do?
And that's something that I've said in the past. I say it today. And I think what I appreciated about the conversation that I had with the president was that we were not shy about the places of disagreement, about the politics that has brought us to this moment. And we also wanted to focus on what it could look like to deliver on a shared analysis of an affordability crisis for New Yorkers.
I mean, this guy's a complete BSer. I mean, this is taquilla. I mean, right to our face. I mean, seriously, this is taquilla right to our face. So let me get this straight. Like, either words have meaning or they don't. Either you mean what you say or you don't. So let me get this straight. If you believe that Trump is a fascist, why the hell would you ever meet with a fascist? I wouldn't, would you? And not just meet with a fascist, but, glad hand with him, pat each other on the back, make jokes, crack jokes. I mean, just, in other words, Mamdani also gave Trump some legitimacy from the left's point of view. He met with him. He praised him. He was warm to him. So why would you do that if you really believe this guy's a fascist? I mean, if you want to know, Hitler did, they did make the Autobahn they constructed the Autobahn under Hitler. I'm just stating a fact. Workers got paid vacations under Hitler. Literally, he drove inflation down in Germany. The, quote, affordability crisis in Germany, the Fuhrer took care of that. So what? So what? So if you... Yeah, you're right. Sandy's saying, Trump meets with dictators and Mamdani's going to meet with whoever to get the city what he needs. But he's going to get what he needs whether he meets with Trump or not. So my point is, if you believe what you're saying, then why would you go meet with him? And why would you be so pleasant to him? It's just the whole thing. In other words, look, if a man is a dictator who is going to destroy the Constitution of the United States and poses a quote-unquote existential threat to democracy, you don't go there with a smile on your face, shake his hand, pat him on the back, and say we're buddies. That means you don't believe what you're saying. I mean, it's just, the whole thing is disgusting. But my point is, what did Trump get out of this? Again, I go back to I'm not arguing. I'm asking. Seriously, where's the 3D chess? Mamdani is still, lashing out at him. Mamdani is still slandering him. Nothing has changed. He's still attacking him viciously. And talk about an ingrate. The president treats you 5 stars, gives you the warmest welcome imaginable, treats you with nothing but class, grace, and courtesy, to the point that he's getting massive blowback from his own supporters. And you run to the media less than 24 hours later and libel him and slander him and defame him as a fascist? I'm sorry, he really is a POS. Forgive me, but I'm sorry, it's true. He's a low-life POS. Now, if you think there was any accommodation on the sanctuary city front, well, here it is. By the way, his staff, all of them, either hardline communists or hardline Islamists. He's loading up his staff with the most radical Marxists or radical supporters of the Muslim Brotherhood imaginable. Here's one of them. This is his chief of staff, and Mamdani's chief of staff. And she's asked point blank, well, are you guys going to give a little bit on this, on ICE coming in and deporting illegals and, making New York City apparently the most radical sanctuary city in the country? Listen to her response. Roll cut 16, Mike. Okay, we're having a problem with a technical issue. Okay, anyway, so the chief of staff says that, no, deportations are inhumane. This is Mamdani's chief of staff. And that we will have the strongest sanctuary city in the entire country. We will not cooperate with ICE. Only with the most violent, extreme felons will we cooperate with ICE. So basically, mass murderers and mass rapists. So if you're not a mass murderer and you're not a mass rapist, Mamdani's not letting ICE into New York City.
We certainly were clear about our disagreements in the room, and the mayor-elect made clear that we uphold sanctuary laws in our city and all immigrants will be safe in our city. We also made very clear that we feel there has been inhumane raids just this week. So it will be a future conversation with the president, but we, again, grounded in an overall desire and the acknowledgement that our sanctuary city laws allow cooperation in extreme violent felony cases. And that is something where I think we have alignment.
So that was the chief of staff, El Bisgard Church. She's Mamdani's chief of staff. Basically saying, this was after the meeting. We may cooperate on the most extreme violent felons, illegal aliens, I guess, mass murderers, drug kingpins, mass rapists. But other than that, we're staying a sanctuary city. We're going to be a hardcore sanctuary city, and we're not cooperating with ICE. And apparently, according to her, we told Trump right to his face in the meeting. We're not backing down. So, again, the question I have for everybody is, what did Trump get, in your view, out of the meeting? I know everybody knows what Mamdani got, Commie Mamdani. He basically got Trump's seal of approval. He got a bromance with the president in the White House. So he's walking away smiling ear to ear. But what did Trump get? In other words, what did the rest of America get? 617-266-6868, 7:51 now on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. let me ask all of you, to me, the ultimate question. Should Trump have met with Mamdani? And what did you make of the fact that it turned into a love fest? Good idea on the part of Trump, bad idea on the part of Trump. Do you support Trump's charm offensive? Or do you believe what he did amounts or is tantamount to appeasement? Listen now. This is Jack Posobiec. He is asking a question to Mamdani about Mamdani's pledge that he is going to raise taxes on quote-unquote white neighborhoods. And Mamdani does not back down an inch. This is what the president sitting right beside Mamdani. Roll cut 15, Mike.
Shifting the tax burden for property taxes from what he called minority communities to white-based communities and putting more taxes on white people. I also noticed that in your acceptance speech you didn't mention anything about America or Christians or white people in general, and so I didn't know if that was one of the policies that you guys had spoken about.
We focused on affordability. We focused on the cost of living crisis. What I will say is that I am very much interested in property tax reform because what we see right now in New York City is a system that is so inequitable that it can't even stand up in court. And the president and I spoke about the importance of not only building more housing, but also making sure that regulation of housing is something that is manageable to actually get through and not the cause of yet another weight that we see in our city.
Clear, you're continuing this idea of race-based property taxes.
No, to be very clear,
that's what you said.
No, the use of the term was a description of neighborhoods, not a description of intent.
So you intend to tax the whiter neighborhoods more?
No, we intend to create a fair property tax system because we want a New York City that is not only fair and equitable, but also one that every New Yorker can afford.
Right. No, he's not backing down from going after white-based neighborhoods. He's saying, well, we deny the intent. Well, of course, if he admits the intent, it's a violation of civil rights laws, and it's going to be shot down. But the point is, he's saying, no, we need property tax reform, which is code for we're going to go after the white neighborhoods. They're going to bear more of the burden. So with the president literally a foot away from him. So what I'm saying is, whatever you want to say about Mamdani, and I can't stand him. I really can't. I think he's a serious danger to the country. I think there's no question. He stood his ground. He gave nothing. He compromised nothing, at least in public. Trump, on the other hand, at least publicly, gave a lot of ground. And again, I want to repeat this point. I know I've said it before, but it bears repeating. Trump often and consistently said throughout the entire press conference, he is a great mayor. He may be the greatest mayor. I would live under a Mamdani mayoralty. He's got phenomenal ideas for New York. On and on and on. Mamdani never once praised Trump. Personally, never. Never. In fact, to his credit, he called him a fascist to his face. So, do I think it was a mistake? Yes. But that's me. I want to hear from you. 617-266-6868. Lines are blazing. Russ in Boston. Thanks for holding, Russ, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Russ.
This should be no surprise. This is how he deals with communists, whether it's communist China or Rocket Man in North Korea. Let's see how this plays out. When Mamdani fails, Trump can say, I tried to work with him for the benefit of New York City. Many things we agree on. I will always give President Trump the benefit of the doubt, whether it's corporate America or whether it's the government. No matter what comes out of his mouth, he creatively can walk it back and effectively. And never forget that about Trump. Yes, did he go overboard with this? Was I a little unhappy? How overboard? Yeah, I was, okay? But, let's be honest. If we had an honest media, Trump would have an 80% approval rating on what he's accomplished. And as far as what he's accomplished, he's second to none. And Jeff, I will always put my faith in Donald Trump.
You know, Russ, I got to say, that's a very interesting take. I've not heard anybody say that, that this is how he deals with communists. Like, you know, in other words, look, he sits down with Xi Jinping, he praises Xi, he praises Little Rocket Man. It doesn't matter who that commie is. He strokes their ego. He says he's going to work with them. But, you know, underneath the table, behind closed doors, he's doing everything possible to bring them down, to undermine them, to subvert them. And he can turn around and say, hey, look, I gave this guy all the support he needed, all the help he wanted. Don't blame me. If this guy goes, you know, if Mamdani goes down, and he will go down, can't blame me. I mean, I couldn't have been nicer to the guy. Russ, I want to touch on this. I want to develop it more in about half an hour, but let me just go with you because you're such a long-time astute observer of politics. The elephant in the room is not just that he met with Mamdani, but about 4 hours later, after he met with Mamdani and did the press conference, Marjorie Taylor Greene publicly announced her resignation from Congress effective January 5th, 2026. So basically in about, 6 weeks, she's gone. She's resigning. She's leaving Congress. So it was a double whammy. It was both Mamdani and the way Trump seemed to be fawning all over him, and then, of course, the resignation of Marjorie Taylor Greene. And so let me just paint the picture for you, and I want to get your reaction. On the one hand, you have President Trump celebrating and praising Mamdani, an Islamo-communist, in the Oval Office, to the point where he says, this man beside me could literally be the greatest mayor in the history of New York City. And on the other side, maybe his most loyal MAGA supporter, the one who was with him from the very beginning, the one when he was impeached twice, defended him. After January 6th, was one of the few people that didn't abandon him. The one who was one of his most strident supporters in Congress, now says she was called a traitor by Trump over certain issues. He was going to primary her, and that she now is leaving Congress. And Trump tweeted out, or whatever, on Truth Social, said that he is celebrating the fact that she is resigning her seat, that it is good for the country that Marjorie Taylor Greene is a congresswoman no more. So in other words, he's praising Mamdani, and he's dancing on the political grave of maybe one of his most, if not the most loyal MAGA patriot in Congress. Something is not right here. Am I wrong, Russ?
President Trump does are confusing, okay? And some jam just say, why the hell did he do that, okay? But then the bottom line comes, and he rises above it. And sometimes I'm amazed at how the hell he's able to do it. But the guy has such a phenomenal personality. And the other thing is that you can say anything to Trump, and he don't give a damn because he just discounts the source and says, screw you, okay? And that's why you can't insult him. You know, he's just an unbelievable person. I've never met or seen anyone like him in my life.
Interesting.
He's incredible.
So, Mike, so Russ, you're not troubled at all that he elevated Mamdani, praised Mamdani, and basically drove Marjorie Taylor Greene out of politics. I'm just curious. You're saying, Jeff, he's playing Mamdani as a fiddle. He thought Marjorie Taylor Greene became too much of a loose cannon. He knows what he's doing. The optics may look a little crazy, but in the end, trust in Trump, correct?
The master of the rope-a-dope.
Interesting. Interesting. Russ, thank you very, very much for that call. Is it Perry? Okay, Perry in Lynn. Thanks for holding, Perry, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. I hope you can hear me. I'm in the car.
I hear you loud and clear. Go ahead, Perry.
Great. Thank you so much. I was so disappointed seeing that whole thing play out. I know we didn't see what happened behind closed doors, but lately I don't know what's going on. That he has Mamdani there. He threatened Marjorie Taylor Greene. He has the Saudi prince there and basically said it was okay that a journalist was murdered. He pardoned George Santos. Like, what is going on? I don't get it, Jeff. And, you know, I'm a small business owner. My husband and I, we are struggling. We are really struggling because, you know, we employ 3 other people in our small business, and the tariffs have really hit us. They've really, really hit us, Jeff. I know people don't like to hear that, but I voted for Trump because I truly believe that things were going to be better for small businesses. And we're going to have to lay off our 2 of our employees, and we're holding off until Christmas so that at least we're not laying them off before Christmas. So I'm just really disappointed. There are a whole bunch of things. Why did he have to pardon George Santos? That guy tricked veterans and lied about his mother dying on 9/11. He pardoned him. He pardoned a crypto guy. And when he was asked about that, he was like, I don't know anything about him. And then he sits there and like smiles at Mamdani, who's called him a fascist, who's like said, turn up the volume, Trump, and we're going to get you. And then he has the Saudi prince there, and he tells a reporter, you know, quite piggy, when she asks about the Khashoggi murders. I don't feel like, I don't know what I'm seeing here. I did not vote for Trump the past 2 times. I voted this time because I genuinely believed, as a small business owner, that things were going to get better. And we get a small portion of our product from China. There are no factories in America that make it. And here we are. It's cut into our profit margins. And then I see, you know, Jeff Bezos, the Apple guy, giving him a gold Apple-like phone, and so they don't have to pay tariffs, and they can get their H-1B visas, and they can all come in and give money for his ballroom. But I can't do that. I can't give a gold product to him, and so now I have to lay off 2 of my employees. I'm frustrated. I'm really, really frustrated, Jeff. Thank you.
Perry, if you don't mind me asking, did you watch Marjorie Taylor Greene's resignation video? It's about 10 minutes, almost 11 minutes long.
I didn't watch the whole thing. I'll be perfectly honest. I watched the clips. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I have watched it play out. I don't understand the whole infighting that goes on sometimes, and I know that it gets played out by the media, but she was his, number 1 supporter. And I feel like the minute she said anything negative, she said the death threats and the doxing and all of this started. And we can't say anything. We can't say one negative thing. We can't question anything, and then we're called traitors. I don't think that's okay. And there's just no way any of these things are going to work in your.
Oh yeah, no, you're right, Perry. No, he's a snake oil salesman. There's just no question. No question. No, Perry. The reason why I asked is so much of what you're saying about Trump is what Marjorie Taylor Greene said in her resignation video. And look, I know you're very busy. You got your business to run, and you're treading water. But it's 10 minutes. It's a very powerful 10 minutes. I urge you to listen to it, watch it. And I think she's speaking not for everybody, obviously, but I think she's speaking for a lot of people who voted for Trump. And that's why when I'm listening to you, I'm like, you sound very much like Marjorie Taylor Greene. And this has been her argument. This is why she resigned. She's saying the Trump in the second term is not the Trump of the first term. And that he's making decisions that she says she finds inexplicable. and that she profoundly disagrees with. So I'm just saying that's what's compounding the meeting with Mamdani. Now, the other thing that's shocking about Mamdani is even after Trump, I mean, really treats him almost like royalty. I mean, Trump treated him extremely well. Not only does Mamdani not return the favor, or is, kind or cordial, Mamdani has openly said, again, he wants to impeach Trump. As I said on Friday, when we just near the end of the show, the Democrats now have laid out their platform for the 2026 midterms. And they are predicting a big blue wave. This is what the Democrats now say. They're going to take back the House. And that they say we are now running on a campaign promise and pledge to impeach and overthrow Trump from power, remove him from office. And Mamdani was asked, do you support it? And he said, you better believe it. You better believe it. I want Trump impeached and I want him out. So, again, I'm asking myself, we're not just talking, Nazi, fascist, dictator, which, by the way, those were the slurs and the lies that practically got him almost killed. That's how they're inflaming the left against him. But not only is he doing that, now it's we're going to impeach and remove him. And I'm saying to myself, and you're inviting him to the White House? And you're slapping him on the back? And you're telling everybody he's the greatest thing since sliced bread? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I understand the arguments that some of his, that some people are making. He's trying to co-opt him. He's charming him. You'll see it's all going to pay off. He's setting Mamdani up for a trap. Okay, maybe, you're right. I'm wrong. I don't claim to have a crystal ball. But the way it looks for me right now, you've just buried Marjorie Taylor Greene. You have celebrated her leaving politics. And let's be honest, Trump led a purge against her. But you're openly embracing a communist and an Islamist who wants to impeach you. I don't know who's advising him. I take Marjorie Taylor Greene over Mamdani any day. But that's me. Perry, thank you so much for that call. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Paul in Concord. Thanks for holding, Paul, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff, how are you this morning?
Good. How are you, Paul?
Yes, I'm good so far. It's too early, though. You know what? It's like the cliche, Jeff. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. I mean, there's a lot of that, which you was referring to earlier about, setting the bar, high, and then if it doesn't make that bar, then, But I think it's a little deeper than that, but it's just Trump's style. He's a diplomat. He's a negotiator, and that's what he believes in diplomacy. And as much as we wring our hands against this Mamdani, the communist, Trump is not a communist. He's not converted to communism or liberalism. We know that as conservatives. Everybody knows that. We're like, what is he doing? What's he up to? He's not converted, but he's being honest. He's saying, listen, come to the White House. Let me hear your side of it. I'm going to be, diplomatic to you. I'm not going to be this monster, this dictator, this fascist, that everybody, the people on the left try to accuse me of. And that's the way he is. So now Mamdani leaves, and he goes back and just reiterates everything, Trump's a fascist, and his advisors say, yeah. And you know what? He's strategizing, I think, Jeff, because I think it's the people, like in New York City, I think it's those constituency. They're probably they're ready for it,
Paul, can you do me a favor? First of all, I'm happy that you called. Okay, let's go right back to Paul in Concord. Paul is making the point that, frankly, many of you, I believe at least 50% of the audience, that Trump was playing really 3D chess He was playing the long game, not the short game, and that essentially it was a PR coup on the part of Trump. Why? The left is calling him a fascist, a dictator, a despot, a monster. What did he show in his dealings with Mamdani? Quite the opposite. A man who is gracious, very courteous, extremely polite, respectful, warm to Mamdani, looking for areas of common agreement. That's not the behavior of a dictator. That's not the behavior of a fascist. So in a sense, by being so kind and so nice to Mamdani, he has blown up this image, this narrative, that he's the second coming of Adolf Hitler. Because believe me, if that was Hitler in the Oval Office, Mamdani would either be in a dungeon or dead. Instead, Trump basically blew him a kiss. So, Paul in Concord is saying, Jeff, there was a strategy and Trump executed it to a T. Paul, did I characterize your position accurately?
Yeah, he knows that Mamdani is a communist. He knows that he's a hardcore leftist Islamist. He knows he's not going to change. But what could change, though, Jeff, are the people that vote for these socialists. They may start thinking, you know what? Maybe this guy isn't the monster, and he's not. He's been doing that his whole presidency and in this term before that. It contradicts, and they're going to have a tough time thinking, well, maybe he's not. Maybe the conservatives, the Republicans, aren't that bad. Maybe we can vote for a Republican governor of New York. Maybe we can vote for a conservative. It's not just for Trump. I think it's just for the whole conservative movement. It's like letting them know, hey, listen, the narrative that these people are leveling against me is inaccurate. What they may start to think is that, wait a minute, this guy is the real fascist. This guy is intolerant. This guy is the one that, you know what, maybe we don't trust him. And I think he's just piece by piece, like just little tiny pieces, he's starting to break down their arguments and their charges of Trump being a fascist and threat to democracy, when they're actually going to see, you know what, at least he's invited somebody to come in, all right, make your argument, come to me. I'm not a fascist. Let me hear what you have to say. He didn't say that he agreed with all of Mamdani's points. He was quite frank. He says, we disagree on a lot of stuff. So that right there, it's proven that he is above Mamdani. He is above these radical left-wing socialist communists, and their charges are starting to weak. Now they just, that's what I think Trump's trying to convey, is that, hey, listen, I may not agree with you, but I'll let you come in, make your argument. It's very unfortunate with Marjorie Taylor Greene. I know it seems contradictory and hypocritical that he's, his number one supporter. He calls her a traitor.
Paul, you anticipated my next question. I mean, I definitely see the argument that you're making. No question. But then why be so brutal with Marjorie Taylor Greene? Even if you don't like, that she opposed the Republicans on the shutdown. Okay. But say compared to Mamdani, that's peanuts. I'm just using Mamdani as an example. So, and it's not just that he was brutal and he withdrew his endorsement and his support, but then he vowed that he was going to help raise tens of millions of dollars and primary her, politically destroy her. And then when she gives her resignation speech, video, he goes on Truth Social and really taunts her, saying, he's celebrating, the country should be celebrating. He called her wacky. He called her a lunatic, on and on. So it seems to me, I mean, I'm just being honest, Paul, he treated Mamdani 1,000 times better than he treated one of his most loyal supporters in Congress. Whatever you think of Marjorie Taylor Greene, like her, don't like her, you think she's someone who's just playing to the cameras or whatever you think about her. The fact of the matter is, I think this is what's also kind of disconcerting a lot of his supporters. Like you weren't 1/1000th as tough on Mamdani as Trump was on MTG. I'm just curious. What do you say to that, Paul?
Yeah, Jeff, I was disappointed to hear that comment. She has been a staunch supporter of Trump. But here again, I think a lot of his comments are designed to have a purpose. maybe he wants you to change or to look at something different. But Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's feisty. She's got integrity. I believe all that. I liked her. But you know what I think she's missing, though? That's why she resigned. She doesn't have stamina. She doesn't have the stamina to take what she's been getting. Now, she's been doing it for a little while, but just to resign in January because some little, dispute you have with the leader of your party. No, that's, you know what? I start thinking about, like, she's got no stamina. She's got all the other stuff, but she's missing that. She can't stand up and say, hey, what's this crying away? I quit. I don't know. I mean, I like Marjorie Taylor Greene. She was a great supporter of Trump. But here again, keep your friends close. She's a friend, and your enemy's closer. You keep an eye on them and watch them and see what they do. And it's
Interesting. Paul, thank you very much for that call. I really appreciate it. Well, you certainly speak for a lot in the audience, no question. I think the knockout blow for MTG was when Trump called her a traitor. Okay, it's the love fest everybody's talking about. Trump and Kami Mamdani. Everybody thought it'd be a slugfest. No. I mean, they were practically blowing kisses at each other. 617-266-6868. Okay, Maggie in Amesbury. Thanks for holding, Maggie, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Maggie.
I just wanted to say I'm not surprised at how the meeting went, and I actually admire Trump for meeting with Mamdani. I think that, first of all, Trump is, as he says, president of the whole country, and Trump loves New York. So I think it makes sense to have met with him, now he knows his plan and everything else. He's probably gave him advice behind closed doors. But now to me, it's kind of a better look because it says, look, I tried. If this guy goes out there, as he will, because you can't trust Mamdani, but if he goes out there and just, blows off what Trump said and does what he wants to do, New York will not do well. So I think on that aspect, Trump, the only concern I have is Trump can be a little too trusting sometimes, I think, of people. And I wanted to mention something else, Jeff, that has been bothering me, something that came up. You mentioned a few times on the midterm elections. I have a friend. We disagree politically. He's very anti-Trump. But he's kind of up there in the CIA. He's worked there for years. And when I express concerns, what he says to me is, just wait until after the 2026 elections. And my stomach kind of dropped thinking, what's going on? Like, is there something behind the scenes that, people within Trump's circle are going to be kind of stabbing him in the back or something? I don't know. It just gave me a little bit of pause to hear that. Obviously,
well, they're going to destroy him. They're going to destroy him. They're going to do everything in their power to destroy him. And that's my fear. And that's what I don't think the president, and I say this with all due respect, because you know how much I love him, and I voted for him 3 times, and I'm a staunch supporter of MAGA, a staunch supporter of America First. And let me just say this. I still think, I've argued this with even many Trump supporters. You look at his first 10, 11 months in office, he's been incredible. I think he's had historic achievements. But what I'm concerned about, it's been about the last 6 weeks, and I can't quite get a handle on it. I don't know who has his ear. I don't know who he's listening to. But, I made this joke over the weekend. We had a caller on Friday, Roy in Oklahoma, and, he was a conspiracy theorist, and he called, and he said, this is not Trump. I go, well, what do you mean this is not Trump? And he said, no, he was kidnapped in Canada at the G7. I'm like, what? No, he was kidnapped at the G7 and he's dead. They killed him and they put in an imposter. But this guy is 6 inches shorter. That's why he's always sitting. And I'm thinking, well, don't you think his wife would have noticed, his children, everybody who works for him? Hey, you just shrunk 6 inches. And he says, well, everybody's in on it. Well, no, come on. But what I'm saying is, so it was, I was laughing and chuckling. But this weekend, I was joking around saying, maybe this guy Roy in Oklahoma is correct. Like, this is not the Trump. Forget the first term. This is not the Trump of the first 9 months. So it's not just the meeting with Mamdani. Okay, let's just let that one go. It's the H-1B visas. How he's going to give out, what is it, 1 million H-1B visas to literally replace Americans, American jobs. And then when pressed why, he literally said because essentially Americans don't have the capacity, the talent to do many of these jobs. And I'm like, what? 600,000 student visas to students from China, many of them directly connected to the CCP. And these visas have a green card stapled to them. And he says, well, I want to save the university system. Well, you don't have to do it by letting in 600,000 communist Chinese students. So I'm looking at H-1Bs. I'm looking at the Chinese student visas. I could run down the list. Having the leader of Syria, who literally was a member of Al-Qaeda, who personally slaughtered thousands of Christians. So the people that attacked us on 9/11 were allowed to visit Trump in the White House. Trump shook his hand. Trump even saluted him. As the other guy, the leader of Syria, has got his hand on his heart like, I love you. And Trump is like saluting him. I'm like, you brought Al-Qaeda into the White House? Who the hell advised you on that? So you're starting to look at certain issues, and you're like, whoa, Mr. President, I love you, man, but I didn't vote for this. And then the Epstein files. I know he finally at the end made the right decision. But if you want to know the feud between him and Marjorie Taylor Greene, it was over the Epstein files. And she refused to side with Trump on that issue. And she and Thomas Massie and Nancy Mace, they formed a group, a band, what do you call them, renegades, that broke with the president, sided with the Democrats, and that's why in the end they had no choice but to release the Epstein files. So when I look at H-1B visas, when I look at the Chinese student visas, when I look at the Epstein files, when I look at meeting with the Al-Qaeda president of Syria, I'm like, is that President Trump? Like, did somebody replace him? Is this, So obviously he's getting bad advice. I think there's no question. And so I've covered him now for a very long time, as you know. I've never seen this before. Never saw it in the first term. Never saw it when he was out of power. Never saw it in the first 9 months. How many of his supporters and voters are now emailing the Kuhner man, texting the Kuhner man, saying, Jeff, I'm not going to vote in the midterms. Like, I'm not happy. I'm not happy with the Republicans in Congress, and Trump is making decisions that's leaving me scratching my head. And I think what the president doesn't see coming, to your point, is they are going to destroy him. The Democrats are going to impeach him. They are going to defund him. They want him in jail. They're not going to give up. The deep state, once they sense weakness, the long knives are going to be out. And what you're going to see, Maggie, is that the president now has people around him who he has supported who are lying to him. They're going to backstab him. And I'm telling you, just to give you an example, look at Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham did not vote for Trump in 2016. Didn't even vote for him. In 2020, after the January 6th riot, on 2021 to be exact, Lindsey Graham came out and said Trump is finished. Good riddance. The Republican Party needs to get rid of Trump. Well, now Trump has not just endorsed Lindsey Graham for the primary. He's literally helping raise money for Lindsey Graham. He's at his Florida golf course. They're raising money for Lindsey. A man who supports amnesty, a man who's a warmonger, a man who's a rabid anti-Trumper. And by the way, I've seen and run into Lindsey Graham multiple times when I was up on Capitol Hill as a reporter and an editor. Never when I met him was he sober. I'm just being honest with you. Okay? Drinky. By lunch, this guy is 3 sheets to the wind. Okay? I'm not saying he's an alcoholic, but I'm telling you I've never met him sober. So this is the kind of guy you're allying yourself with. When they turn on Trump, you watch. Lindsey's going to stab him right in the back. And this is what Marjorie Taylor Greene was trying to say. She said, so I'm the traitor, but Lindsey Graham isn't? And then, as in her resignation video, which I thought at times honestly was moving and powerful, she says, so I'm going to have to fight off now millions of dollars in attack ads from President Trump and his supporters to primary me. And then we're most likely going to lose the midterms. And then after they start impeaching him, I'm going to have to defend the guy who called me a traitor? She said, I'm not a battered wife. I'm not going to do this. And so now Marjorie Taylor Greene is gone. And my fear is, who's going to back Trump? He's surrounded by Judases. He has to win the midterms. If he loses the midterms, they're going to try to sink his presidency. Okay, my friends, let me address the elephant, obviously, in the room. We've been touching on it, but let's tackle it head on. So, while Trump was meeting with Mamdani, and let's be frank, gushing over Mamdani, whether he meant it or not, we can debate, but publicly he was gushing over him. There's no question. While he was publicly celebrating and praising Mamdani, about 4 hours later, one of his staunchest political allies, Marjorie Taylor Greene, in a shocking development, announced her resignation from Congress effective January 5th, 2026. Now, let me just say this right out of the gate. I'm not romanticizing Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm not coming in here and telling you, oh, she's pure as the wind-driven snow, because she's not. That she doesn't have certain ulterior motives, because she clearly does. I'm not saying that. There's plenty of blame in this feud between Trump and MTG, which I believe now has a tragic ending. I think there's enough blame to be, if we're going to be honest, on both sides. On MTG's side, obviously, and on Trump's side, obviously. Now, let me make 2 very quick points out of the gate. Why did MTG select January 5th, 2026? Because I'll tell you what bothered me about her resignation. Not her reasons. I think her reasons are actually fascinating and I think in many ways true. And I'm going to play some cuts. But what bothered me was you were elected to serve 2 years. You got a mandate from District 14, the 14th District, Congressional District in Georgia, and she won again overwhelmingly. And in that district, many love her. They absolutely love her because she speaks for them. So why didn't you finish your 2 years? Fine. You're upset at Trump. You're hurt that he called you a traitor over the Epstein issue and other issues. Fine. I get it. And there was an attempt to purge you from the party. I get it. And Trump vowed that they would spend tens of millions of dollars behind a primary challenger to defeat her. And so she felt, and she says so in the video, profoundly betrayed. I understand all that. But why didn't you finish your term? You could have said, I'm resigning, yes, but I'm just not going to run for re-election. I'm going to serve my, the rest of my term, but there'll be I'm not going to contest the primary. I'm not going to run in the primary. This is it. I'm done. And, when January 2027 rolls around, my term is over. I'm done. But she didn't do that. She specifically said January 5th, 2026. Why? I'll tell you why. because she was sworn in January 3rd, 2021. She wins election to Congress the first time in November 2020. She's sworn in January 3rd, 2021. For her to claim her pension, taxpayer-funded lifetime benefits, I didn't know this, but you have to serve a minimum of 5 years. I honestly thought it was much longer than that. I'm looking at this and I'm like, that's it? 5 years? All you got to do is be in Congress for 5 full years? And you're vested with the pension forever? For the rest of your life? This is disgusting. You want my honest opinion? I don't think members of Congress should get a pension. I don't. That's not what our founding fathers intended. But let that go. The bar is set so low that all she had to do was serve 5 years, and boom, she gets a lifetime pension. So you see, she couldn't step down immediately, or in December, or even January 2nd. No. To be vested with the 5 year, with the pension, she's got to do her full 5 years. January 5th, she's done, actually, she's 2 days over. January 5th, she's got her 5-year pension. Now, I'm sure, if you'd probably say, and I would say, well, hey, Jeff, come on, don't be stupid. Don't resign now. Why? You're just a couple of months away from a pension. Don't throw away your pension. But still, that's a little, you want my honest opinion? That's a little sleazy. That's a little financially self-interested. I'm just pointing out the obvious. And why not serve the full 2 years? I'm sorry, you betrayed your constituents. So there are many things that she did that I'm not happy with. But I've got to be honest with you, and I'm going to play you the cut. There are things that she says that to me are sadly, tragically, heartbreakingly, undeniably true. Listen to Marjorie Taylor Greene saying, no mas, no more. I'm resigning. Why? Roll cut 3, Mike.
Hi, everyone. I've always represented the common American man and woman as a member of the House of Representatives, which is why I've always been despised in Washington, D.C., and just never fit in. Americans are used by the political industrial complex of both political parties, election cycle after election cycle, in order to elect whichever side can convince Americans to hate the other side more. And the results are always the same. No matter which way the political pendulum swings, Republican or Democrat, nothing ever gets better for the common American man or woman.
It's true. I'm sorry, it's just true. It's, in the end, it's the swamp, it's the uniparty, it's the political establishment, it's the Washington cartel, it's the ruling class, she calls it the political industrial complex, whatever term you want or phrase you want to use. The forgotten man and woman always remains forgotten. Now, I know Trump is trying to address that, God bless him. But doesn't it feel like that? That it's never the ordinary, hardworking, tax-paying American citizen that is always put first? Don't you always feel? I feel like we're always put last. I constantly feel this. So it's sad, but it's true. And then listen to her list the reasons, saying, look what's happening under the rule of both parties. She goes, just pay attention. Forget what they say. Just look at what they do. This is the reality of this rule by both parties, this uniparty, this swamp. Roll cut 3A, Mike.
The debt goes higher. Corporate and global interests remain Washington's sweethearts. American jobs continue to be replaced, whether it's by illegal labor or legal labor by visas or just shipped overseas. Small businesses continue to be swallowed by big corporations. Americans' hard-earned tax dollars always fund foreign wars, foreign aid, and foreign interest, and the spending power of the dollar continues to decline. The average American family can no longer survive on a single breadwinner's income, as both parents have to work in order to simply survive. And today, many in my children's generation feel hopeless for their future and don't think they will ever realize the American dream. And that breaks my heart.
It breaks mine. Really, I'm telling you, it breaks mine. Because the American dream for the younger generation is dying. It is. And I challenge anybody, and I'm not just talking about Trump supporters or MAGA supporters, and I mean, I'm one of you. I'm MAGA to my fundamental core. I will die MAGA. Liberals, Democrats, independents, libertarians, I don't care where you are in the spectrum. Where is Marjorie Taylor Greene wrong? The debt keeps going up. Corporations continue to get richer. The wealthy continue to get richer. And we continue, the middle working class, we continue to constantly fall behind. Over and over and over. We always have endless wars. It never ends. We're always funding endless wars. It never ends. So listen now to Marjorie Taylor Greene, because now she gets into the whole I was called a traitor by President Trump, which you can tell really stung her. I mean, I think it broke her, if you want my honest opinion. I think Trump delivered the knockout blow. I think she just couldn't handle the fact that he essentially kicked her out of the party and kicked her out of the movement. And you could tell it's psychologically, it was a blow she just never was able to recover from. But listen to her say, this is what I stood for in Congress. These are the bills that I sponsored and pushed. And yet the Republican leadership never lifted a finger. They never gave a damn. Roll cut 3B, Mike.
I ran for Congress in 2020 and have fought every single day believing that Make America Great Again meant America first. I have one of the most conservative voting records in Congress, defending the First Amendment, Second Amendment, unborn babies, because I believe God creates life at conception, and I love to fight for the little guy. Strong, safe borders, I have fought hard for that. I've fought against COVID tyrannical insanity and mandated mass vaccinations, and I've never voted to fund foreign wars with your hard-earned tax dollars. However, with almost 1 year into our majority, the legislature has been mostly sidelined. We endured an 8-week shutdown, wrongly, resulting in the House not working for the entire time, and we are entering campaign season, which means all courage leaves and only safe campaign re-election mode is turned on in the House of Representatives.
And then she lists, and I want you to hear it, because I know this is true. What she's saying is completely true. She pushed a bill to not provide H-1B visas, to protect American jobs first. Republicans didn't take it up. Make English the national language, the official language. Republicans didn't want to touch it. To put moratoriums on artificial intelligence through states' rights. In other words, have the states be able to control and regulate AI, not the all-powerful federal government. Bill after bill after bill after bill. And she said, I was stabbed in the back every single time. Roll cut 3C, Mike.
During the longest shutdown in our nation's history, I raged against my own speaker and my own party for refusing to proactively work diligently to pass the plan to save Americans' health care and protect Americans from outrageous, overpriced, and unaffordable health insurance policies. The House should have been in session working every day to fix this disaster. But instead, America was force-fed disgusting political drama once again from both sides of the aisle on television every single day. My bills, which reflect many of President Trump's executive orders, like calling for a new census counting Americans only to draw new districts, making English the official language of the U.S., making it a felony to medically trans a minor, and other bills like eliminating capital gains taxes on the sale of your primary home and eliminating H-1B visas just sit. They all sit collecting dust. That's how it is for most members of Congress bills. The Speaker never brings them to the floor for a vote.
And so she then says, it's very painful for me to say this, but I'm essentially now I'm gonna resign. I'm stepping away. And she goes on to further say that she can't stand the fact that she was called a traitor and that she stood by President Trump during his impeachments when practically every Republican abandoned him. She stood by his side after January 6th when practically every Republican abandoned him. And so she said, I'm done. I'm done. As she put it, loyalty has to be a two-way street. And obviously claiming that she was loyal to Trump. This is what she's basically saying. But Trump was not loyal to her. So President Trump is then asked by a reporter about Marjorie Taylor Greene and what she said. And here was his answer. Roll cut to Mike.
Are you willing to forgive Congresswoman Taylor Greene?
Forgive for what? No, I just disagreed with her philosophy. She started backing perhaps the worst Republican congressman in our history, just stupid person named Massey. And I said, go your own way. And once I left her, she resigned because she would never have survived the primary. But I think she's a nice person. Okay, thank you very much.
So she's a nice person, but he says basically she would have been defeated in her primary. They were going to set up a primary challenge against her, someone endorsed by Trump, and they were going to raise tens and tens of millions of dollars. And so listen now to Marjorie Taylor Greene saying, she says she would have won the primary. That's what she says. But she says the point is, whether I win or lose, say I won the primary, and then, of course, because it's such a red district, you're going to win the election in November. She goes, we're going to get wiped out. She's convinced of it now. So what am I going to do? Stand there and have them bombard me with ad after ad, calling me every name in the book, and then somehow I survive, win election, and then Trump becomes impeached when the Democrats take back the House. And then I'm supposed to defend the guy that's been vilifying and attacking me as a traitor and as a lunatic and as a wacko. And she said, look, I'm not a battered wife. I'm not some battered woman. I'm not going to play that game. Roll cut 6, Mike.
With that has brought years of nonstop, never-ending personal attacks, death threats, lawfare, ridiculous slander and lies about me that most people could never withstand even for a single day. It has been unfair and wrong, not only to me, but especially to my family, but it's been wrong to my district as well. I have too much self-respect and dignity. I love my family way too much, and I do not want my sweet district to have to endure a hurtful and hateful primary against me by the president that we all fought for, only to fight and win my election while Republicans will likely lose the midterms, and in turn be expected to defend the president against impeachment after he hatefully dumped tens of millions of dollars against me and tried to destroy me. It's all so absurd and completely unserious. I refuse to be a battered wife, hoping it all goes away and gets better.
And that's when she said, you want me out? I'm out. Now, let me just say this. Whatever you think about Marjorie Taylor Greene, when it came to securing our borders, she was there. First Amendment, Second Amendment, she was there. You name the issue. Deportations, English as an official language, H-1B visas, Chinese student visas, the census, making sure only Americans are counted in the census, which would rechange almost every congressional district map in the country, cutting Democrats off from political power. She was there for tough vote after tough vote. She stood up to Big Pharma. She opposed the COVID mandates. She opposed the mask mandates. She opposed big tech and censorship every step of the way. She opposed the neoconservatives and the military-industrial complex. She was the only one who consistently voted to end our support for foreign wars over and over and over and over again. I'm not saying she's not annoying. I'm not saying she didn't make bad decisions. I'm not saying she didn't cross the line sometimes. She did. There's no question. She should never have gone on The View. She should never have gone on CNN and bash her own party the way she did, undercutting them during the shutdown. So she made mistakes. As I said, there's enough blame to go around. But the fact of the matter is, what I don't understand, and this is why I think what we're talking about today is a fundamental watershed, how President Trump, on the very same day, could have an Islamo-communist, a jihadist Marxist in the White House who will destroy New York City and has now become the face of the Democratic Party. And he can celebrate Mamdani and praise Mamdani and literally embrace Mamdani. And yet, a couple hours later, say that Marjorie Taylor Greene's resignation from politics is, quote, a great day for America. And that she and not Mamdani is the traitor. And that she and not Mamdani is, quote unquote, wacky and a lunatic. Now, I'm sorry, but something is very seriously wrong here. Something is not right. And are you going to get someone more pliant now from the Georgia Congressional 14th District? Yes. But I'm telling you, no one had Trump's back for years more than MTG. Now, let me just say one last thing, and then I want to go right back to the phones. There's been a lot of speculation that maybe she wants to run for higher office. She cannot win as governor of Georgia, and she cannot win as a senator from Georgia. Trump sent her polls, where she's underwater, 20 percentage points. Some are saying she may want to run for office, the presidency. She denied it vehemently yesterday. If she did try, she wouldn't come close. I think this is probably the end of Marjorie Taylor Greene in terms of politics. Maybe as a podcaster, maybe in the media, maybe as a talking head, yes. But in terms of as a political force, I think she's now finished. And so the question I have for you, it is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Is MTG resigning because A, she wants to draw attention to the fact Congress is broken?
If I am cast aside by the president and the MAGA political machine and replaced by neocons, big pharma, big tech, military-industrial war complex, foreign leaders, and the elite donor class that can never, ever relate to real Americans, then many common Americans have been cast aside and replaced as well. There is no plan to save the world or a 4D chess game being played. When common American people realize and understand that the political industrial complex of both parties is ripping this country apart, that not one elected leader like me is able to stop Washington's machine from gradually destroying our country, and instead the reality is that they, common Americans, the people, possess the real power over Washington, then I'll be here by their side to rebuild it.
That, of course, was MTG, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, announcing her shocking resignation on Friday. I think, what was it, 3-4 hours after Trump finished his meeting with Kami Mamdani in the White House. 9:20 now on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. All right, let me ask you the poll question one more time. It is sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Is Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene resigning because, A, as you just heard her, she wants to draw attention to the fact that Congress is broken? Or is it B, she knows she will lose a primary election? A broke Congress is broken. B, she knows she will lose her primary. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, KUHN as in National ER. You can also vote via X, and I was very active on X. My handle there, at the Kuhner Report, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, KUHNER. Dan in North Andover, thanks for holding, and as always, Dan, welcome.
Jeff, my brother, my younger brother from another mother. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Dan?
So I got to ask you. So what does Grace think of this? I'm just kidding, because I know she's smart. But anyways, honestly, Jeff, I can't believe that Trump has all of a sudden lost his mind. Not after cutting all these business deals that he's cut all around the world for more, more jobs and more money being invested in the U.S. Just the last 3 months alone, he's been everywhere cutting deals, right? I can't believe he's lost his mind. I really got to believe there's something else going on, right? And maybe something really, really big is going to come out of these Epstein files, Jeff. I think that Trump probably has a better idea what's in these Epstein files than you and I. I think that there's something huge is going to happen in the U.S. government. I think that he's trying to align himself with people. I think this Mulvaney thing, it was just a joke. I really do. I think it was a joke. I think he was this, to me, he almost looked like a father saying, okay, little boy, go try this. And when you fall off your bicycle, I'll come pick you up. That's how I took that meeting.
That's interesting. Well, you're right, though. There was a bit, you're right. There was a bit of a father-son or older, younger man dynamic. In other words, okay, Junior, okay, you got all these ideas. I support you. Don't say I didn't support you. Go ahead. And then basically when you fall flat on your face, you can come to me and I'll see if I'll help you or not. That's it. Dan, what do you make of what happened with MTG? I'm just curious.
I truly got to believe there's something else. I think Trump as a person is too loyal. This reminds me a lot of what happened with Elon Musk. Elon Musk had to get out of that position or they were going to burn down his company, right? He all of a sudden he's Trump's biggest enemy. They're fighting right? And then, at the Charlie Kirk funeral, they're hugging and kissing. It just doesn't make any sense, Jeff. It makes the American public is foolable, and I think that's what it's all about. I think there's something else going on between Trump and MTG, and we'll know, 4, 5, 6 months down the road.
Well, the rumor is, Dan, I'm sure you know it better than I do, that she wanted to run for governor. She wanted to run for senator. And Trump's people, and this I know is a fact, they said, okay, we did some independent polling. Marjorie, you can't win. I mean, you may be strong in your district, yes, but Georgia's a purple state, and your brand of conservatism, your brand of America first, you're not picking up independents and you're not getting moderate Democrats. You're going to get slaughtered. You're going to be, she wanted to run against John Ossoff. And they said, you go up against Ossoff. Ossoff beats you by 20. So you can't beat a Democrat in the Senate. You can't beat a Democrat for governor. You're going to lose. And what Trump is arguing is the moment they sent that over, those polls, she changed. She became bitter. She became angry. In other words, she took it personally. While Trump and his people saying it's nothing personal, you can't win. I mean, you're great from your district, but you can't win a statewide race. And they say that's when she began to adopt this attitude of burn it all down. What say you, Dan? Do you buy that? Not buy that?
So Georgia's a funny state. I spend a lot of time there, Jeff. It's a funny state. So Georgia, she can't win a statewide office as a friend of Trump. So she's got to be an enemy of Trump if she's going to try to take a statewide office in Georgia.
That's interesting. So you do this big resignation. Trump and I don't see eye to eye. He called me a traitor. I'm done with him. Maybe cooler jets for a year or two. And then, she goes on The View. She goes on CNN. And suddenly now she's a never Trump Republican. And you're saying then she becomes more electable statewide, correct?
The View, going on CNN. She's trying to moderate herself, right? Don't get me wrong. I love MTG. I think she's been phenomenal. Every year I've been bidding to, get a chance to go wild feral hog hunting on a helicopter with her. She does that fundraiser every year. Anyways, I'm dying to win that. But anyways, so she's honestly, I love her positions on everything. I think I can't believe that she's flip-flopped positions, and I can't believe Trump is flip-flopped. I really can't. Not yet. Not yet, Jeff. Maybe I'm wrong. That's why I've got to find out what Grace says. I'll wait till Wednesday.
Interesting. I'm going to ask her that. I will. I'm going to ask her that. Dan, as always, thank you very much for that call. Lisa in New Hampshire. But I didn't think of that. That maybe she's positioning herself for a statewide run. But, if you're pro-Trump, you can't win a statewide race. Well, now she's definitely become anti-Trump. I mean, hell, you can't get a more high-profile divorce than this. I mean, a political divorce. You can't get a more high-profile political divorce than this. Okay, let me be brutally honest. I'm going to go to Lisa in New Hampshire very soon, in 10 seconds, actually. But let me just be brutally honest with you. Like I'm in the confessional. I don't know why, but MTG's resignation, it's like a punch in the gut. I find it disappointing, honestly, a little bit demoralizing and dispiriting. The whole, thing with Mamdani, whatever. Okay, will it work? Will it not work? Did Trump make a tactical mistake? Did he not make a tactical mistake? Look, Mamdani is going to ruin New York. All right, he's going to burn that city to the ground. I'm sure of this as the sun will rise tomorrow. So Trump can easily just say, hey, I tried to work with the guy. What else do you want from me? But MTG was a MAGA warrior. And for her to throw in the towel after only 5 years, and the way they broke up, the bitterness, the recriminations, the name calling, it got really brutal. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a bitter pill to swallow. Am I the only one? I'm just curious. Or are some of you happy that MTG is gone? 617-266-6868. Lisa in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Lisa, and welcome.
Good morning.
Hi, Lisa.
I'm sick over MTG, Jeff. She was more MAGA than he was. And she got into politics for him because she watched what they did to him. She didn't even come until 2020. She fought for J6. She fought for everything that we believe in. But that's not even the reason why I dialed the phone to call you today. I just wanted to tell you that. It's heartbreaking. Her and Matt Gaetz were the two fire breathers. They're both gone. The swamp ate them up. Trump went along with it. They're still, Matt and Trump are still on good terms. And I know that they both knew he was never going to get confirmed. So there was a plan behind that as well. So I'll never say that I understand politics, and I don't understand the swamp. And I think the swamp is so much bigger and nastier and extensive than we ever thought before. putting that aside, the reason why I called was because I have to beg every single listener out there and every single person listening to tell 10 people, even though we're mad and even though things aren't going our way and we feel a little defeated today, everybody must get out and vote for the midterms. By saying I'm not going to vote because you don't like the way things are going just makes it worse. It doesn't even make any sense. It's like biting off your own nose to spite your face. We saw what Democrats are capable of. Every single Republican, including Trump, his whole family, maybe even you, we're all going to jail if a Democrat gets the office again. Everybody needs to keep their eye on the ball. We need to get somehow, some way, through the next 3 years with the House and the Senate so we can then get 4 more or 8 more years of Republican rule. If not, the country's done. And everybody has to put their big boy pants on and their big girl pants on, and they got to hold their nose just like we did 1,000 times before, and we have to get out. If we don't keep the House and Senate in the midterms, we're done. Trump goes to jail. Period. The end.
Well, I agree with you, Lisa. I think it's even worse than that. You're dead on. Don't get me wrong. They're going to tank and destroy the second half of Trump's term. I think you're right. They're going to impeach. They're going to defund. They're going to investigate. But I think they're going to try to arrest Trump, never mind just impeach him. But they're going to blow up the second half of his second term. And then this is, to me, the scary part. They've said the quiet part now out loud. The Mamdani model is the key to their success. So the worse things get, they're now convinced, leads to their socialists and communists getting elected. So AOC over the weekend, this should be everywhere. But instead, because, it's Mamdani, it's MTG, these are big stories. But she was asked, about what's going on recently, and she openly admitted it. She said, people now fear the Democrats. And the next time we get power, we have to make people suffer. Americans. In fact, she said, we have to make Americans suffer even more. Because the more they suffer, the more they're going to vote for us. They're suffering in New York. They voted for Mamdani. They're suffering in Seattle. They voted for this Mamdani communist. Katie Wilson is her name. So, in other words, the more inflation, the more higher the cost of living, the more people can't pay for food or rent or utilities or their health care, the more they're going to cry out for the communists to come in and nationalize and control everything. Don't worry, the party will take care of you. Don't worry. And that's my fear. So, you see, this is what I mean. When I saw him with Mamdani, I'm watching this, I'm like, you're wishing him well. He's wishing you death. And I don't just mean personally, he wants you dead. Or politically, he's supporting impeachment. He wants to burn your whole administration if possible, the country to the ground. Because he can never be president. Mamdani, because of the fact that he's an immigrant to this country. But he wants someone like him to become president. He wants AOC. Remember, AOC made Mamdani. So, to be honest, the stories now coming out of New York is not that she wants to primary Schumer. AOC wants to go for the brass ring. She's saying, to hell with being a senator. I'm going to be the next president. If Mamdani can do it at the age of 32 and be a mayor, I can be one of the youngest, if not the youngest president in history. And she's telling everybody, I'm a woman and a Latina to boot. I check all the boxes. So, the communists aren't playing. And I think our side is getting complacent. I don't think we quite realize the depth and the gravity of this threat. So I'm with you all the way, Lisa. No, I think they want to destroy the country. And by destroying the country, that paves the way for communism. Lisa, final word to you. Am I wrong?
No, that's my point. I don't care if anybody, look at what he did with Mondani is because he's a host and because he's proud and because he loves New York and because he's the president. He did that for all the reasons we know Trump is, right? He's going to let him hang himself. He's going to make him come and beg for whatever he needs for New York, and then he's going to decide whether he gives it to him. I could care less about that. I thought it was hysterical, to be honest. I care more about MTG leaving and hurting our chances of people like her to give up everything to come and try to fight for the country because they saw what happened to her. You know me. There is no other Trump supporter bigger than me, and he broke my heart when he turned on her. He turned on her when she went live with the Epstein people with Massey because Massey screwed him, and he took it personal. And then it went beyond and beyond. He called her a traitor, not to her country, because she went on The View, and she went on CNN, and she went to the places that try to ruin him. So put all that aside, we have to truly fight for this country now, whether we like Trump or not. It isn't about Trump, Jeff. It never was. It was about the populace. It was about the people finally rising and thinking they had somebody who was going to be there for them. And he is there for us. But he's the president for all people. And he's the president for the whole country. And he's trying to set a stage for us to continue when he's gone. And people need to open their eyes. It may not make sense up front, but what he is doing is to prevent communism. It's to get people working.
Oh, Lisa, thank you very, very much for that call. You know, we were just talking off air. I just find Mike very funny. He says things that are just to me, make me laugh. And I said, Mike, do you think Sandy's a little bit more to the left than I am? His answer is, Jeff, everybody is more liberal than you are. I'm like, Mike, really? Am I that right wing? Oh, yeah. Okay. So, MTG is not to the left of me. Huh, Mike? Huh? I think I got you there. 617-266-6868. But alas, she's now resigning from Congress. Morris in Boston. Thanks for holding, Morris, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. You know, it's funny. You know you're getting old when you forget you called doing a radio show. I'm driving along. Like, is he talking to me? Hey, so I got a couple of theories here. One with with Syria. I think what Trump is doing, I think he knows something big is coming down the pipe with China. And he's got to pull a lot of their quote-unquote allies over to our side. And we know Syria's been working with Russia and China. So I think he's just trying to build a little bit of a force here or take away from people that could be supplying China with whatever it may be, rare earth minerals, fuel, whatever that may be. But I think that might have been some of the thought process behind that. With regards to Mondani, I have two theories here.
Morris, can you do me a favor? I promise I'm going to give you all the time in the world. I don't mean to cut you off, but you're making such an interesting point. I want to add these two other issues and see what you say, because you're saying Trump is playing almost like geopolitical chess. And I think there's something to that. And so let's get Syria back in our camp. What do you say to the argument that he's doing the same thing with Saudi Arabia and Qatar? He just agreed to sell the Saudis F-35 fighter jets, which has angered many people in MAGA. He's given Saudi Arabia now a NATO-like security guarantee. In other words, it's not NATO, they're not part of NATO, but a commitment. You attack Saudi Arabia, we will defend Saudi Arabia. He's also done the same thing with Qatar. He's given them a security guarantee. And so this way, by giving Qatar and the Saudis a full-fledged security guarantee, he's bringing them solidly in our camp. Morris, do you think that's wise on his part? I'm just curious.
Because at the end of the day, Jeff, they're either going to hate us a lot or they're just going to hate us a little. They're always going to hate us. But I think that bringing them into our camp as much as we can, it's smart, because we're going to need the Middle East should the poop hit the fan at some point. The Middle East is going to be a vital area. And I think if he does more for them than China does, I think we're going to see a positive effect on that. With regards to the fighters, obviously we're not giving them the same technology within those cockpits of those planes that we have. And my guess is, and this might seem far-fetched, but maybe there's a kill switch on those jets. Who knows, right? They're not going to work. Somebody hits something here in the U.S., those jets aren't working. But I think the idea of giving them those jets is, it's to help us when things get going, because I really believe things are going to get brewing with China sooner than later. I just have that odd feeling that I've always felt. I feel like we're close.
Morris, again, I don't mean to rush you. Please go ahead, Mamdani. Go ahead.
So with Mamdani, my thought is, right, Trump is born and bred New York. I mean, when I grew up in New York. When I was a kid growing up, Trump and New York went hand in hand, almost like the Yankees in New York. It's just when you think of New York, you think of Trump. I see Trump handling Mamdani almost like a negotiator, a hostage negotiator handling somebody, standing on a ledge with a baby, threatening to throw the baby off, and that baby being New York City, and the person on the ledge being Mamdani. I think Trump is just trying to placate him and be friendly with him so he doesn't kill the baby and throw him off the ledge. And, or this is my other thought process is with regards to his behavior with Mamdani, the press. Nobody hates the press more than Donald Trump. He wanted to steal their thunder so bad, hoping that the press hoping that there was going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight between him and Mamdani, and he didn't give it to him. He stole their thunder, put them back in their heels, and they had no story that day other than, wow, Trump was a gentleman. My last point with Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think that was a mistake what he did. I like her. Is she wacky? Yeah, kind of why I like her. But he lost a lot of female support by doing that. A lot of conservative females are not too pleased how he talked to her, how he treated her. She's very loyal. And yes, she is wacky at times. She wears her MAGA gear on the floor and this and that, but there was no bigger cheerleader.
Morris, I've got to tell you, man, bang, bang, bang on all 3 points. Really good call.